Welcome back to On the Same Page. We are on Daf Tes Amud Aleph 9a of Maseches Brachos, and we are starting 4 lines down the page. The last word on the line is Amar, and it's Amar Rabbi Zera. And Rabbi Zera is commenting on something that was said previously. Previously, the Gemara brought 2 different versions of a statement of halacha regarding when you can say Shema, and it had 2 versions of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, and 2 statements, therefore, are going on that the halacha is like Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. The first version of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai was that a person can say Shema twice in the evening, and by that he meant once before dawn and once after dawn, and after dawn, between dawn and sunset, is still the evening. But at that point, he could be Yotzei the morning Shema, even though it's still evening, but you could be Yotzei the Uv Kumecha, the morning when you get up Shema, because people are already getting up during that time. And on that, Rabbi Shua ben Levi said, Halacha Reb Shimon ben Yochai. The halacha is like that I guess even at that time, you could fulfill the Shema of the morning, even though it's technically nighttime, according to that version. Then there was a second version where he said you can fulfill the Shema. You can fulfill the Shema twice in the daytime, and what he meant was once between dawn and sunrise, that same time period, and once after sunrise. And you're saying Shema twice in the daytime, and you're fulfilling the Shema of both the night and the morning. In other words, according to that version, even though between dawn and sunrise is technically daytime, you can fulfill the previous night Shema because it's still b'shach b'cha, because people are still sleeping at that time. And on that, Rabbi Shua ben Levi said, again, halacha Reb Shimon she'amar mishum Rabbi Akiva. And this time it was Reb Shimon Bar Yochai in the name of Rabbi Akiva. So now the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Zera said, Ovilvad shelo yomar hashkivenu. As long as he doesn't say hashkivenu. Hashkivenu is one of the brachos that follows the Shema as part of Ma'ariv, and it says basically Hashem shall lie us down in peace when we go to sleep. So if it's already morning, then it doesn't make sense to say the bracha of hashkivenu at that point. Now that's how Rashi explains that if you're reading the nighttime Shema in the morning, Rashi actually says Samach Amud HaShachar, which sounds like he's talking about even before dawn. Even in the case where you said it before dawn, but it's right before dawn, Rashi says you shouldn't say Hashkivenu because people don't go to sleep anymore at that point. Tosfos disagrees with Rashi because he says if it's still night, then it's still night. If it's still before dawn, then people still might be going to sleep at that point. It's still considered at least the time that people go to sleep, and therefore it's not going on that case. And rather, Tosfos brings from the Sar Mikutzi that it's talking about after dawn before sunrise. That we just said that you can, according to the second version of it, according to Reb Shimon Bar Yochai in the name of Rabbi Akiva, if you say Shema between dawn and sunrise, even though it's daytime already, you can fulfill the Kriya Shema of the nighttime because people are still sleeping at that point. But Uvilvad shelo yomar hashkivenu. Rabbi Zera says, but don't say Hashkivenu at that point. Don't say that bracha, because that bracha is only during a time that it's normal for people to be going to sleep. Okay. Ki asa Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef Amar. When Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef came, he said, Had Rabbi Acha Rabbi Chanina Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi La befeirish itmar. So this idea that Rav Acha bar Chanina, second name Rabbi Shua ben Levi, that the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, it wasn't said explicitly. He never said it explicitly. Ela michlala itmar. It can be deduced. It can be inferred from something that he said. Because what happened was, there was a pair of rabbis who got drunk, at the wedding of the son of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. So Asalu Kamei Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. So they came to Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, and I guess they weren't able to say Shema until the morning, and they fell asleep actually, and they woke up and it was already past dawn. So it was that time between dawn and sunrise, and Amar, and he said, Kidayu Reb Shimon lismoch ala b'shas hadachak. He said that you can rely on Reb Shimon b'shas hadachak in extraneous circumstances. So this is actually a common refrain in the Gemara, that Kidayu Reb Shimon lismoch ala b'shas hadachak, that even though we wouldn't paskin like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai lechatchila, ideally one should not say Shema, according to anyone, after dawn, for the previous night. And many would say you're not Yotzei at all at that point. But he says, Kedai, you can rely on, he's enough to rely on strenuous circumstances. You fell asleep, you didn't have a chance to say the evening Shema until after dawn, and you can rely on that opinion, B'shas hadachak, that even after dawn, before sunrise, you can fulfill the Shema of the previous night, because it's still a time when people are sleeping. It can still be considered b'shachtacha. Okay, now we go back to the Mishnah, and the Mishnah, after it brought the opinion of the Chachamim who said you have to say Shema by Chatzos, by midnight, and it brought the opinion of Rabbi Gamliel who said you have all the way until the morning, it then had a story, and the Mishnah said, and by the way, Rabbi Gamliel, when he says that you have until the morning, he says until dawn. He doesn't say past dawn. So it's only Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai who says you actually have past dawn, but Rabbi Gamliel only says you have until Amud HaShachar, until dawn. And then the Mishnah says, Maisa happened, and his sons came back late from a wedding, and it was not yet dawn, and they said, we have not yet read Shema, and Rabbi Gamliel said, you're chayiv to say Shema, you're still obligated to say Shema. And then he said, not only that, but anytime the Chacham said you have until Chatzos, you have until midnight, really you have until dawn, and they only said you have until midnight to distance you from sin, to make sure you get it done by midnight. That way it will be done and you won't slip up. So the Gemara asks, V'ad hashta lo shmiyalu v'hadam Gamliel? His sons didn't know his opinion up until now. They come home from a wedding, they say, Abba, we didn't say Shema, what are we supposed to do? And he says, oh, I hold that you have until morning. They didn't know that. They didn't know that he holds that you have until morning. So, says the Gemara, no, Hachi Kamrile, this was the conversation. They said to their father, Rabbanan pligi yilavach. The rest of the Rabbanan argue on you. V'yachid v'rabim, halacha k'rabim. And the rule is, when you have an individual against a majority, the halacha follows the majority. So, we know what you hold, Abba, that you have until morning, but the majority says you have only until midnight, so we missed it. They were asking him, actually, is it that the rabbis argue on you? Oh, Dilma, or maybe Rabbanan kavasech sfir lahu. Maybe no, maybe really all the other rabbis agree to you that you have until morning. V'hai dekam riyad chatzos, and that which they say you have until midnight, k'nei l'harchik adam min aver, that's just to distance a person from sin. But if you miss midnight, your mitzvah, you're still fulfilled the mitzvah, the Torah mitzvah, until morning, so we should still say it. That was their question. Do the Rabbanan hold, when they say you have until Chatzos, do they hold that that's it? You only have until midnight? That's actually the latest time? Or do they really agree with Rabbi Gamliel that you have until morning, and they just say you have until midnight to distance a person from sin? In which case, even though it's past midnight, we should say it, because technically you have until morning. That was their question for their father. Amar lahu, he said to them, Rabbanan kavasi sfir lahu. He said, yeah, the Rabbanan hold like me, and therefore you're still chayav, you're still obligated to say Shema. And that which they said you have until midnight, that's only to distance a person from sin. But important to realize that even if you miss that deadline, that you haven't lost it yet, and you should say Shema, because you have, on a Torah level, you have until morning. The lo zubil vad amru. And then the Mishnah said that Rabbi Gamliel told them, and they didn't only say here, But anytime the rabbi said you have until chatzos, you really have until morning. Now ask the Gemara of Rabbi Gamliel, Mika Amar ad chatzos. Does Rabbi Gamliel say that you have until chatzos? Dikatani, that the Mishnah says, V'lo zu bilvad, and not only here. So it's not so clear what the Gemara thought here. If you go back to the Mishnah again on Daf Beis, the first Mishnah, so the Mishnah continues, right? After Rabbi Gamliel says that you okay. So the Gemara's question is, if you read the Mishnah straight, it sounds like Rabbi Gamliel almost holds like the Chacham, because he says to his children, if it's not yet morning, you're still obligated to read the Shema. And not only that, but any time the Chacham say you have until Chatzos, which sounds like he's also saying you have until Chatzos, because he hasn't yet said that the Chachamim, I disagree, but they just say to distance a person from an Avera. If you read the Mishnah straight, it just sounds strange. Rabbi Gamliel said to his children, if it's not yet morning, you're obligated to say the Shema. And not only here did they say this, but anywhere that the rabbi said you have until Chatzos, you really have until morning, which sounds like he's part of that group that's saying you have until Chatzos. So ask the Gemara, did he say that you only have until Chatzos, until midnight? Then he goes on and says, and not only this, but also other places where we say you only have until Chatzos. He didn't say you only have until Chatzos. Says the Gemara, this is what he was saying to his children, his sons. Even, you have to fill in the blanks, fill in some missing words. He was talking about the Rabbanan. He was saying, I say you have until morning. And even the Rabbanan who say you only have until Chatzos, really, they agree that the mitzvah goes until the morning. Which they say you have until midnight. It's in order to distance a person from sin. So you have to fill in that he was saying, and even the rabbis who say you only have until Chatzos, they really agree that you have until dawn, and they're just trying to distance you from sin. Okay, and then the Mishnah gave other examples. It said not only by Shema, but by other things like Hekter Chalav Ve'varim, like the burning of the fats and the limbs on the Mizbeach. So even though the afternoon Tamid, the afternoon Karban Ola, would be brought in the afternoon, and or it seems maybe even other Karbanos as well, they are supposed to be they're supposed to be burned up by midnight. But the rabbi said, they really have all the way until the morning. But the rabbi said that you have to, they have to be finished by, sorry, 1 second. So if there was something that didn't get burned, in this particular example, it can still be placed in the Mizbeach in the evening, all night long, really. As long as the blood was sprinkled, that part of the carbon was done during the day. It's considered the main part of the carbon is done, and the actual burning of the fats and the limbs, they can be put on at night. When at night? So technically all night long. But the rabbi said you have to do it before Chatzos. So that's another example. And also karbanos that you have all night long to eat, the rabbi said you have to finish it by Chatzos. So says the Gemara, V'yu achilas psachin lo katani. But it doesn't mention the carbon Pesach. It doesn't say in the Mishnah that you have to have the Karban Pesach, that technically you have until morning, but you have to get it done by Chatzos. It does not give that as an example. Viramini, but we have a contradiction from a Brisa. The Brisa says, Kriya Shema in the evening, V'halel, V'leili Pesachim, and Halel on Pesach night, V'achilas Pesach, and the eating of the Karban Pesach, Mitzvah Sangat Sheyala Amud HaShachar. The mitzvah is until dawn. So why does the Mishnah not say, but even though you have until dawn, the rabbis say you only have until Chatzos. Why doesn't it list this as one of the things that even though you have until dawn, the rabbis say you only have until Chatzos? So the Gemara explains, Amar Rav Yosef, lo kasha, it's not a contradiction. Ha Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, ha Rabbi Akiva. One is going in the opinion of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, and one is going in the opinion of Rabbi Akiva de Tanya. We learned in a Brisa. It says in the pasuk about Karban Pesach, you should eat the meat balayla hazeh, this night. How long do you have to eat it? Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Omer, Nemar kan balayla hazeh, v'nemar lehalan, v'avarti beretz Mitzrayim balayla hazeh. So it says with regards to the Pesach, and you should eat it halayla hazeh, this night. And with regards to Makas Bechoros, it says, and I will pass through the land of Egypt balayla hazeh, on this night. And we learn in Gzeira Shavu, we learn to compare balayla hazeh to balayla hazeh. Ma lehalan ad Chatzos. Just like in Makas Bechoros, it meant really at Chatzos, up until Chatzos. That's when Makas Bechoros occurred, at midnight. Afkan ad Chatzos. So too, when it says that you should eat the Karban Pesach, it means up until Chatzos, and the deadline to finish the Karban Pesach is Chatzos. That is the opinion of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Amar le Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva said, V'alo kvar nemar b'chipazon. But it says, and you should eat it b'chipazon, in a hurry. Which teaches you, says Rabbi Akiva, ad shas chipazon, until the time that they were hurrying. When were they hurrying? When they left Egypt in the morning, at dawn. That's when they rushed out. So the shas chipazon, time of chipazon, is dawn. So when it says you should eat the Karban Pesach b'chipazon, it means up until that time of dawn, of rushing out. So according to Rabbi Akiva, you have until dawn. So Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah holds you have to eat the Karban Pesach by Chatzos, by midnight. And Rabbi Akiva holds that you have to eat it by dawn. Im kein matam l'omer balayla. So then if you have until dawn, so why does the Torah say that why does it say that you should eat it at night? Im kein matam l'omer balayla. So why does it say you should eat it at night? Yachol yenechal kikachim bayam. Because you might have thought that you could eat it, right? So according to Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah, it says balayla hazeh. This night means until Chatzos. According to Rabbi Akiva, you have until Shas Chipazon. Balayla hazeh doesn't really teach you anything. It just, or we'll see in a moment, it does. But all you need is it says that you should eat b'chipazon, and I know that it means up until Shas Chipazon, until they rushed out. So I know that you can eat until the morning. So then why does it have to tell me that it has to be at night? I can figure that out. Why does it say matam l'omer balayla? Why does it tell me to eat at night? Yep. So the Gemara explains, because yachol yenechal kekadshim bayom. Because you might think that that you could continue to eat like other karbanos. That you could eat it even in the daytime before you shechted it on Erev Pesach. You might think that you don't have to wait to start eating it. That's how it normally is with a karban. You can eat it the day that you shecht it. You don't have to wait till night. So according to Rabbi Akiva, I know the deadline is Shas Chipazon, is when they left Egypt, is the morning. But what's the start time? What's the start time? I might have thought that the start time is Erev Pesach, when they shech the Karban Pesach. So, Talmud Lomar B'Layla. That's why the Torah has to say at night. B'Layla hunechol v'lo bayom. It can be eaten at night, but not in the daytime when it's shechted. So on the 14th of Nisan, when they shecht it, you can't eat the Karban Pesach yet. Only B'Layla, only at night. And what's the deadline? You should eat it b'chipazon, in a hurry, meaning you should eat it up until that time of hurrying when they left Egypt. Okay, so Bishlam Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah d'Isle Gzeira Shava. So I understand the Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah who holds of the Gzeira Shava of Halayla Hazeh, Halayla Hazeh. It's Rechon Le Hazeh. So that explains why I need the word Hazeh, right? Because it's the Gzeira Shava to learn out that it's Chatzos, that you have until Chatzos. El Rabbi Akiva Hay Hazeh my Avinoi. But what does Rabbi Akiva do with the word Hazeh? In other words, we explained why Rabbi Akiva needs it to say Ba'alayla at night, so that you can't eat it in the day on Erev Yantif. But why does it have to say Ba'alayla Hazeh on this night? I know I can't go past this night. I know I can't go past Shas Kipazon when they left Egypt in the morning. So answers the Gemara. Limute Laila Acher Hudasa. No, you might have thought that you can eat it that night and the next night. Why would you think that? Because I might have thought to say, oh, Pesach Kachim Kalim, Ushlam Kachim Kalim. I would have said like this. A Karban Pesach is a type of Karban called Kachim Kalim, which means that the owners eat the meat and they have to eat it within the walls of Yerushalayim. It's Kachim Kalim. And Shalom Kachim Kalim, and a Karban Shalom, a peace offering is a Kachim Kalim. It's the same kind of offering. And Mash Shalomim Nechol L'Shnei Yomim V'Layla Echad. What is the duration that you're allowed to eat a Karban Shalom, peace offering? So you get 2 days and 1 night. So you get the day that gets shechted, the rest of that day, the following night, and then the following day. So it's 2 days and the night in between. So I might have said, Pesach Nechal Shtei Leilos B'Makom Beis Yomim. I might have said that. So the Karban Pesach, it's just the flip. You get 2 nights to eat it. Maybe not the day in between, maybe that you wouldn't assume, but at least you would think you get 2 nights. Just like a regular Shlomim, you get 2 days. So Pesach, fine, it says you have to eat a night, but maybe you get 2 nights. And maybe even you would think that you can eat it in the day in between. That's why the Torah says, this night, it can be eaten this night and not another night. It's only the night of the first night of Pesach. So Rabbi Akiva uses Hazeh to say specifically this night and no other night. That's what Hazeh is for, not the next night. For Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, how does he know that it's only that night? Milo sosiru ad boker nafka. Because the pasuk says, don't leave over till morning. So you can't leave it over past the night. You can't leave it over till morning. Rabbi Akiva will respond to that. Imei Hasman will say, if you wanted to learn from there, it's not good. Because Hava Mina, my boker sheni. Because I would have thought that when it says boker, it means the next morning. Don't leave it over till the second morning, after the second night. From there alone, I wouldn't know that you can't eat it for 2 nights. I would have thought, says Rabbi Akiva, that you could eat it for 2 nights. And when it says don't leave it over till morning, it means the morning after the second night. So therefore, says Rabbi Akiva, had to say B'Layla Hazeh this night. For Rabbi Elazar, Amar Lachon, Rabbi Elazar will say to you, Kol boker Yishamu. Now, when it says, anytime it says the morning, it means the first morning. Nobody would have thought it means the second morning. And so I don't need a pasuk for that. So now just coming back to the Mishnah and the Brisa, so we have Machlokas Rabbi a Machlokas between Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah and Rabbi Akiva in terms of until when can you eat the Karban Pesach. And the question was, our Mishnah mentions all the things that you have until morning to do. I mean, all of them. It seems it's listing off things you have until morning, but the Rabbanan say you have to finish it by Chatzos. Now, we have a brisa that says you have until the morning to eat the Karban Pesach. Now, seemingly there too, the rabbis would say, that's what he said, everywhere where they say you have until morning, they really hold you only have until Chatzos. So So why does our Mishnah not mention the Karban Pesach as part of that list? And the answer is yes, there is an opinion, Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim seem to go with him, that you have until morning to eat the Karban Pesach, midaraisa, and midarabban you only have until Chatzos. But our Mishnah is going like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. And Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah holds you don't have until morning. You only have until Chatzos, you only have until midnight, midaraisa, by Torah law. And therefore, it just doesn't belong in our Mishnah. It's not part of that list. The list in our Mishnah is the things that you have until morning, and the Chum said you have to do it by Chatzos. But something that the Torah says you have to do until by Chatzos doesn't belong in this discussion. So our Mishnah must be going like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who holds that you only have until Chatzos to eat the Karban Pesach, and therefore it's not relevant to our discussion. Only things that you have until dawn, midaraisa, by Torah law, and the rabbi said you have to have it by Chatzos, that's what belongs in this Mishnah. Continues the Gemara in this discussion and says, V'hani t'nai k'hani t'nai. This machlokas, this dispute between Tanaim, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah and Rabbi Akiva, is the same dispute between the following Tanaim. The Tanya, because the Brisa says, the Pasuk says, Sham tizbachas ha-pesach ba'erev, there you should slaughter the Karban Pesach in the evening, Kivo HaShemesh, when the sun sets, Moed Tzeischa Mitzrayim, at the time that you leave Egypt. Now there's kind of 3 time periods mentioned in this pasuk. It says, you should shech the Pesach in the evening. Now the Erev in this case would mean as the evening approaches. And then it says, when the sun sets, and then it says, when you leave Egypt, which is the morning. So what are these 3 time periods for? What are these 3 time periods listed in this pasuk? So Rabbi Eliezer says, Ba'erev ata zoveach, towards the evening, in the afternoon of Erev Pesach, you shecht the Karban Pesach. Ukivo hashemesh ata ochel, and when the sun sets, you eat it. So after dark, after nightfall. Umoed tzischa mitzrayim ata sarif, and if you still have it by morning, so then if there's anything left, you have to burn it. Now you can't actually burn it on Yom Tov, but you would wait. But it's you're no longer allowed to eat it. That is Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Yeshua says different. He says Ba'erev ata zoveach, in the evening you shecht it, towards the evening, again the afternoon. There he's in agreement. And when the sun sets, you start to eat it. And that he's also in agreement with. And until when are you allowed to eat? Until the time that you leave Egypt, which is the morning. So the first opinion said that the morning is teaching you that that's when you burn it. And the second opinion said that the morning is teaching you that that's the last time you could eat it. Which implies that the first opinion held that already earlier you couldn't eat it. So when were you not allowed to eat it? The first opinion said, come the morning you have to burn it. But he doesn't say come the morning you have to stop eating it. It must be that he already held you have to stop eating it earlier. When is that? At Chatzos. And that would be like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So Rabbi Eliezer holds like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. And Rabbi Yeshua holds like Rabbi Akiva, that you have until morning to eat the Karban Pesach. Amar Rabbi Abba. Now the Gemara elaborates. Rabbi Abba said, Hakol modim k'shnigol Yisrael mitzrayim lo nigol ela ba'erev. Everybody agrees that the redemption occurred at night. Meaning, not that they left Egypt at night, but they were freed by the Egyptians. The Egyptians said, go, at the nighttime. How do we know? Shnamar, as the pasuk says, Hotziacha Hashem elkecha mitzrayim ulayla. Says Hashem took you out of Egypt at night. So they were freed by the Egyptians. The Egyptians said, get out. You're free to go at night, after Makas Bechoros. But everybody agrees that they only left once it was daytime. Shenamar, as it says, it says the day after the Karban Pesach, the Jewish people went out with a upraised hand. So that everybody agrees. The chronology, the timing, everybody agrees. The Egyptians freed them at night, and they left first thing in the morning. So what are we debating in terms of when to eat the Karban Pesach until? The they're debating when it says you should eat it b'chipazon, you should eat it hurriedly. What event is that corresponding to? What event of chipazon, of hurriedness, is that responding to? Is that corresponding to? Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah savar. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah holds my chipazon. Which chipazon? Which hurrying? Chipazon de Mitzrayim. When the Egyptians were hurrying us, the Egyptians were saying already at the night before, at midnight, at Makas Bechoros, get out, get out, get out. So they were trying to rush us out. That's the chipazon, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, when it says that you should eat it hurriedly to remember the hurriedness, that's talking about when the Egyptians tried to hurry us out. Now, we didn't actually leave, though, yet. Rabbi Akiva savar, my chipazon de Yisrael. Which chipazon, which hurrying is it referring to? The hurrying of the Jewish people in the morning when they actually left in a hurry. Come daytime, and that's why you have it until daytime to eat the Karm Pesach, and you should eat it in a b'chipazon, corresponding to the chipazon, the hurriedness with which we left Egypt in the morning. That's Rabbi Akiva. Tanya nami hachi. We have a brayso that expresses this. It says, "Otziach Hashem alkacha Mitzrayim l'layla." Hashem took you out of Egypt at night. Did they really leave at night? They left in the day. The day after the Karm Pesach, the Jewish people left with a raised hand. It teaches you the Geula, the redemption, started at night when the Egyptians said get out, but we didn't actually leave until the morning. Okay, now Hashem tells Moshe, leading up to Makas Bechoros, Daber na b'oznei ha'am, speak in the ears of the people, and they should request or borrow from the Egyptians, klei chesed and klei zav, silver and gold. Now, why does it say speak, please, daber na? Amri debei Rabbi Yanai, they taught in the base medrash of Rabbi Yanai, ein na el Hashem bakasha. Na is a language of request. It's like Hashem, or begging. Hashem is begging Moshe to tell them to do this. Why does Hashem beg him? Why is this so important that the Jews leave with the riches of the Egyptians? Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshe. Hashem said to Moshe, "B'vakasha mimcha, I request of you, lech ve'emor lahem Yisrael. Go tell the Jewish people. B'vakasha mikem, I request of you, shalom mitzrayim klei chesed v'klei zav. Ask or request or borrow, different interpretations from the Egyptians, silver and gold. Why? Shelo yomar oso tzaddik, so that tzaddik, referring to Avraham Avinu, should not be able to say, Hashem promised me that my children would be slaves. Va'avadam v'inu osam kiyim bahem. That part of the promise that they'll serve them and afflict them, Hashem fulfilled. But the next part of the pasuk that Hashem promised to Avram at the covenant between the parts, the bris bein habasarim, which was v'achar kein yetze b'chush gadol, and then they'll go out with great wealth. Avram will say, Lo kiyim bahem, he didn't fulfill that. So that's why Hashem said, please make sure they leave with great wealth. They have to go and request gold and silver from the Egyptians so that they leave with great wealth. And Avram can't say, you fulfilled the part of making them slaves, but you didn't fulfill the part of giving them great wealth. Therefore Hashem said, make sure that they leave with great wealth. Now Amru Lo, they said to Moshe, Ulevai shenetze b'atzmeinu. The main thing is we leave. We get ourselves out. We don't really care for the gold. Mashal la'adam shayachavish beis asram. You can understand it analogous to a person who was imprisoned in jail. Vayomer lo b'nei adam, and people told him, Motzin hoschal l'machar beis asram. You're getting out tomorrow. V'nosin l'cha mamon harbin, and you're going to be awarded a lot of money when you leave. V'omer lahem, and he says to them, V'vakasha mikem, I request of you, Hotzini hayom ve'ini mivakish klum. Just let me out today. I don't need anything. So person, it's more important to a person that they get out sooner than that they get out with great wealth. And so to here, I guess this is why it was important to ask, to beg the Jewish people, you're going to request, you have to hold on a little bit longer, and then you can request, you'll be able to leave with great wealth. And they might have argued back and said, let's just leave right now, we don't care for the wealth. But then Hashem wanted to fulfill his promise to Avram. So he says, make sure that you request this gold and silver to make sure that you leave with great wealth, and the promise to Avram is fulfilled. Okay, we will resume from here next time in Mirtz Hashem.